Hi, and welcome to part 2 of our look at the solos on the classic Corea Electric band track Electric City, taken from their self-titled debut album. In the first video we looked at Corea's brilliant keyboard solo on this track. In this video we're going to look at the Rios guitar solo. So let me play it, and then we'll pull it apart. Before we get to the analysis, just a quick reminder, if you'd like to see a transcription of this solo or any of my other lines, you'll find them all on my Buy Me a Coffee page, for which you'll find a link in the description down below. So as I mentioned in the intro, this guitar solo was played by Rios, and it's the subject of a degree of confusion because Scott Henderson was the original guitarist in the Corea Electric band. But on the album, Rios actually plays on 3 of the tunes, including this one, Scott on 3 of the other tunes. So I'm not sure if Scott actually joined after they'd recorded these. I'm not sure of the exact timeline. You can see him on a video they did for this song, which he's miming to the guitar solo on. But certainly, I mean, that's what it says in the line notes. And if you listen to it as well, it's clearly not a Scott Henderson solo. It's not his sound. It's not his approach. So yeah, this is Rios who plays this great solo. And just a quick note about the sound, it's a very sort of 80s processed sound. It sounds to me, I don't know exactly what he used, but it sounds to me a bit like a harmonizer set to like a really subtle pitch shift and sort of panned wide so that you get a chorus type effect between the two. Sounds a little bit like what Mike Stern kind of does. And a slight sort of slap back echo on there as well. But it's a very sort of 80s sort of sound, so I've switched that off for this analysis, gone for something a bit purer. The chords this solo is over, the sequence is C minor 7 to D minor over C, then B flat minor 7 to C minor over B flat. So basically exactly the same thing down a whole step. And over this sequence, Rios, he starts out with this phrase. So this is just straight out of C Dorian. He's bending from the root of the C minor chord, he's bending up to the D. So he's basically starting on the 9th, which is kind of a cool idea. And then bending back down to the C and then pulling off to the B flat, to the flat 7. Then goes down to the 5th, the G, and slides up to A. So finishes on the major 6th. And niche reference alert, it reminds me the theme to Bergerac, which was an old UK cop show from my youth. This little phrase is very similar to the melody of that particular tune, so a few of you might get that reference, but most of you probably won't. But it's a bit of classic guitar-led theme music. Particularly that sound of the 9th and the 6th. But it's very Dorian, by its very nature. So then the chord changes to B flat minor, and he goes into this idea. And this is sort of reminiscent of a Paul Gilbert phrase. Essentially, again, it's B flat Dorian. I mean, this whole solo, he's moving between C Dorian and B flat Dorian. And so over this B flat minor 7 chord, he's coming down, I guess you could call it shape 1 of B flat minor pentatonic, but it's coming down Dorian, but then he continues that exact pattern onto the next set of strings. So that's kind of the blues scale because you've got the flat 5 in there, then the 4th and the minor 3rd. So it's sort of a mashup of B flat Dorian and B flat blues scale. I mentioned Paul Gilbert, he has, a similar sort of lick around that sort of thing, because you get that sort of nice pattern which you play around. And yeah, this is, as I say, it's using that shape, but this is what he's specifically playing. So he's starting on the minor third up here on the D flat. And doing this little pull-off hammer on. And heading down to the sixth. Then he just repeats this idea on the next two sets of strings. He changes the rhythm slightly, but we'll talk about that in a second. It's very much the same idea. Rhythmically, what he's doing, he starts out, after the first note, he starts out with 32nd notes, then goes into 16th notes. Then he goes into a triplet, then 2 16th notes, and repeats that phrasing on the next shape. And when he gets down to the minor third, this D flat, he slides down to the C, then goes to the B flat on the D string. Then moves down chromatically from this B flat, down to the flat seventh, the A flat, then slides down to the G, the sixth. And then the chord shifts back to C minor 7 and plays this. So he switched back to C minor Dorian, starting on the 9th and bending up to the minor 3rd. Then back down to the D. Then pulling off to the C. Then sliding down to the B flat. So that whole phrase, you get this. There's some cool ideas in there, quite chromatic, nice mix of Dorian and the blues scale, and then shifting very neatly to outline the C minor again when it hits there. And then, still over the C minor chord, he comes up to C and D, again muting it. Then, as the chord shifts to B flat minor, he hits the E flat, which actually works over both chords, C minor and B flat minor. This would be the 11th on the B flat minor. Then he hits this low A flat, which would be the flat 7th, and sort of uses it as a pedal. As he slides up from the E flat to the F, the 5th. And hits that A flat again. Then slides up from the root, we skip over to the top string here, top E string to the B flat, and slides up to the C. So again, sliding up to that 9th, so hanging on that 9th. So it's kind of a feature of this solo. He does sort of, hang on these notes that maybe you're not quite expecting, but which sound really cool. And he gives it a bit of vibrato on there as well. And then again muted comes down, B flat to A flat, then bends up from F to G, again hitting the C minor 7 chord change. So he's bending up to the 5th over the C minor 7th. So you get that sound. And then comes down this sort of bluesy kind of idea. Pulling off to the minor 3rd on the C minor, which is the E flat. Then slides down to the D, the 9th. And up to the flat 7th on the top E string, the B flat, and pulls off to the A. So again, landing on the 6th here. finishing the phrase on that nice kind of very Dorian note, the sort of characteristic note of Dorian, that major sixth. It's nice ideas, nice phrasing as well in this. It's very guitaristic. It's really nice the way he mutes certain notes, the slides he's using, the notes, obviously the notes he's picking out, but slightly unusual intervals as well. So following this, chord switches to B flat minor 7 again, and he shifts up the neck, moves up to here. And he's bending up from E flat to F. So he's bending up, he's starting on the 4th or the 11th and bending up to the 5th over the B flat minor 7 chord. And then goes back down. So he plays that E flat, then the D flat, slides down to the C, then comes up an F minor arpeggio. So F, A flat, C. And then the chord switches back up to C minor, and he lands on the flat 7th, the B flat, and slides from F up to G. So that's from the 4th up to the 5th. So that whole phrase. And he plays that B flat short as well. So again, it's all Dorian, it's all based around Dorian, all based around C Dorian and B flat Dorian following the changes. This brings us to this sort of very fast final kind of flourish, where he heads up here to around the 15th fret, upwards from the 15th fret. And let me just play slowly the idea that he plays and we'll talk about it. So he's starting on B flat. B flat, A flat, then down to the F, then to the G, then to the A flat, pulling off, and going down to the F. And this whole phrase is 16th note triplets, like da-ka-da, 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 da-ka-da. And he's quite sort of pushy with it as well. He's sort of really sort of pushing the time bit with it. It goes down to E flat, E flat, C, B flat, then A flat, G, F. And where these notes are coming from, I mean, it's all B flat Dorian. He's kind of playing around an A flat major 7 arpeggio shape with the notes around it. So essentially, A flat major, B flat Dorian, it's all the same notes, but based around this shape. And it does sort of feel like, initially at least, it's using the framework of an A flat major 7 arpeggio. You could also argue it's maybe F minor 7, F minor 9, because, the phrase ends going down to the F. And then second half of this phrase goes down to the E flat on the A string, then to the C and the D flat, then up from the F to the A flat, then to the B flat, then to the C and back to the A flat and the B flat, then C, D flat, E flat, and ends on the G, which is the 5th of the C minor chord, or in this case a B flat over C, which is the final chord that comes after the end of the solo. So the whole phrase, let me just play it. The second half of this phrase, we mentioned he's kind of playing around A flat major 7 arpeggio maybe. for the first part of this. I'd say the second half of this is kind of suggesting the D flat major 7 arpeggio, before returning to outline the B flat over C. So you kind of have that sense of A flat initially, and then so yeah, it feels to me like the line is sort of suggesting those two things. It's not super specific, but it does feel like it's kind of bringing out that kind of harmony. In terms of like the note choices and stuff, I was looking at it sort of really closely, trying to find specific patterns or specific things that he's doing. But it's not quite as specific as that. There's ideas in there, but he doesn't really repeat exactly the same thing. So it's kind of more just sort of playing around that scale shape. The second half of it is a little bit more of a pattern. It's this idea of going down, skipping a third, then coming back up. He sort of repeats. Then so you have that sort of idea of a pattern which he repeats in there. But he doesn't rigorously stick to it, so it's more the initial idea of skipping down a third, then going back up, which he repeats on beats 3 and 4. But then after that, the intervallic sort of pattern of it isn't exactly the same. Because in the first one, it goes down a third, minor third, up a second, then up a third, then up another third, then up to the C. And then for the second phrase, he skips down a major third, then back up a second, but then straight up the scale. So it's not sort of replicating exactly the same idea. So that's the whole solo. Let's say all based around C minor Dorian and B flat minor Dorian. Some great ideas in there. Lots of cool stuff which, you know, we can steal and mess around with and come up with our own ideas from. So let's play this at half speed along with the backing track, and then I'll play it up to tempo to finish.